Nikki Hill, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you so much.
So whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, on tour?
Actually moved here recently, so this is the new homestead. Came here from New Orleans, from North Carolina originally. So
Yeah. And what's the allure of Memphis? Is it the music scene, the recording opportunities?
I'll be totally honest, it was just money. But those are all great perks too. So clearly a big fan of Memphis music. Birthplace of rock and roll and soul. So it's also a great honor to be here too for that.
Yeah. You've just finished up a European tour. How did that go?
It went really, really well, especially after having a break from the road. Everything went about as well as a tour can go. So we were there for a little over a month, and the shows were great. A lot of great crowds. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Life on the road can be tough, especially for a vocalist who belts out songs every night.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you do to keep your voice in shape over the duration of a tour?
Oh wow, I am honestly not that great at being kind to myself. Whiskey and hot water helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, what about your set list these days? How are you approaching that? Do you like to mix things up night by night? Any new material?
Yeah, it sometimes it's about the setting. So usually I like to mix in different things. The set is basically originals, and then I'll choose maybe a cover song or two that we're just having a lot of fun playing at the moment. But we really just cover a lot of music from the albums, and I've got new music coming out next year, so we've been road testing a lot of that on the tours as well. So
Yeah. Feline Roots was your last album. What can you tell us about the new music? Is there a specific direction or theme?
um oh man, it's just still there's not direction, but it's just a good roots album. I'm curious of how I need to listen to it from top to bottom too. There's still lots of finishing touches to do. So once I listen from top to bottom, I think I'll have a better idea of the concept. But I didn't go into it really with anything besides just a collection of songs I've been writing over the last couple years. So but for rock and roll fans, for rock and soul fans and roots fans, I think we'll all have a good time with it.
Yeah. The last couple of years have been tough on artists. Where did you spend most of the time during lockdown and how did you cope with it?
Yeah, it was very difficult. I mean, we were at home in New Orleans. Big, gosh, the 2 days before the lockdown really was in place, and we barely knew about anything going on. So we had a show, and then our my wedding anniversary, and then lockdown. And honestly, it was just a time to be at home and just reflect and kind of really on a at a waiting point to see what the future would hold, because at that point I mean, even prior to lockdown, we were kind of going gig by gig and just super thankful and always excited about being able to go on tour. And I work as an independent artist, so every album release, every tour, everything, it matters a lot. You know what I mean? So while we were at home, though, I started teaching myself how to play bass, and then we started doing live streams with a local drummer, and we were basically our own little pod. The three of us hung out, her and my husband and myself, and So we just spent the time playing and did a lot of streaming and so that was really what kept me going for sure.
Yeah. In general, what's the starting point for a Nikki Hill song when you're writing?
A lot of times it's a melody, uh, something that gets caught in my head. So I always have my phone beside me for the recording device. So I've got all these little clips of just me humming different things into the phone, or I'll start with a bass line because that's what I know how to play.
Yeah.
uh, and 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 then the same with the lyrics. Really, I get a lot of lines that I'll write. Sometimes songs pour out, and then sometimes they're just like piece by piece, or I start with a theme and then go from there. But I'm always really open to having a loose process because I've realized that's just the way some of the best songs come out. And even in the studio I let myself usually write while we're recording because sometimes those are some of the most fun songs to play are ones I've written in 15 minutes while we're hanging out in the studio. And playing the music with the band inspires me to keep doing that while we're there. So
Uh, would you play other instruments, and what was the attraction to the bass?
um i I had taken lessons learning years and years ago and just didn't take it seriously. And so I guess that time sitting at home, I basically just stole my husband's bass and picked it up, and it was just attractive, you know what I mean? I'm always really into the rhythm section of a band. A band is the drums are the most important part, and I'm always into a good drum and bass combo of really holding down the groove. So it's just cool to be a part of that.
Uh, we know that you were brought up on gospel and blues. When did the rock and roll element first kick in? Who were the biggest rock influences early?
Well, when I was younger, I'd sneak out to into a lot of clubs and I would go see live music in any format, and a lot of it started to sort of sway towards a lot of punk shows. And so that was really the kind of kickoff to it was having the chance to see bands like Bad Brains and um, the Cramps and stuff like that, which then having that connection back to blues, I started listening to Little Richard and Otis Redding, and to me, they had just as much energy. Watching Otis perform or James Brown reminded me so much of seeing the punk bands on stage. And it also was an opportunity for people that looked like me that were really like pushing and great showmanship, great front men and women. And so that was kind of how that all started to connect and went from there.
Yeah. You've been known to play an AC/DC song or two. Do you remember the first time you heard AC/DC?
Oh my gosh. I cannot remember. I remember hearing them on the radio when I was real, I went to see, gosh, when was that ACDC concert? I was probably 15 or so when I saw them live, 15, 16. And I really went on a whim. I didn't know that much about them, but a couple friends were going, and I thought, well, yeah, this sounds like something cool to check out. And it was just a fun live show. And then when I actually started going back and listening, I got really into the Bon Scott era, and I was like, okay, this is like it. It sounded like soul. It was like soul to me, and that's when I like really got into them and I got Powerage and I was like, okay, I love ACDC.
Yeah. You're coming back to Bluesfest next year. You've played a couple of times.
Yeah.
When you think of Bluesfest, what comes to mind?
Wow. Well, from musician standpoint, it is like the coolest rock and roll fantasy club. Just being able to go backstage and all these people you really admire and music you love, just hanging out. That part when you arrive, especially the first time, I remember the whole band was just blown away. Like, oh my gosh, we're sitting around eating lunch with these people whose albums you listen to. So it really is like fantasy camp, and then it's just it's got such a really, despite being so huge, it's got a really cool family vibe. I really love that there's so many people that return each time, and you actually start to recognize people and see familiar faces. Not just with the crew working it, but even the audience too. I think that's so cool that they've cultivated that kind of vibe where it still feels very home like. So that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Is it the same band coming back?
It is the same band. The drummer is different. But yeah, two guitars, bass, drums. Got Matt, Laura, Nick, and Marty with me, and I know everybody's gonna really love it. So.
Yeah. This year you released your first 3 albums on vinyl. Why was that important to you?
Well, it's really important because there's been demand for it, which has been I've been collecting vinyl for many years, and I got to be honest, I never expected, and I'm not sure why, but I just didn't expect for that to have this resurgence like it's had. But after going on tour for these albums, that would be one of the first questions that people would ask is, "Oh, do you have this on vinyl?" And you're just every time you're like, "Oh man, okay, I got to start working on this." So I was finally able to get a distributor to help me make that happen. So it's kind of funny. One of my first album, it will be 10 years old next year, and I just released it on vinyl. So, but it's been an incredible response. Like so many people already have that CD, and now that's like I mean, like a relic because I never even expected it to get a response, and that's what kicked everything off. So I finally got to hold that for the first time a couple months ago, and that was really cool.
Uh, do you, when you listen to music for enjoyment, do you usually play vinyl yourself?
Yeah, yeah. That's the standard at home is it just has it just has a warmth to it. I think for a lot of the older records that we listen to, it just has that great vibe. There's something fun about flipping through and choosing, or when you have company and letting people flip through the records. It's a good bonding experience. It's a good social thing, and I love looking at the records and looking at the liner notes while I'm listening. So the process of it is just really fun.
Yeah. I see on your Facebook page in September you posted a photo of Amy Winehouse on her birthday. What, what did you like about Amy, and did you ever get to meet her?
Oh, I did not get to meet Amy, but um I just really love her spirit. And her music was just so vulnerable and so honest and so direct. And that's just uh, really inspiring when it comes to my own writing. And I love that. I always love like I love when people have like a certain there's a look and an expectation about them, but then then they just have another side, which is relatable for me of people, they might think they're going to hear one thing by looking, and then, it comes out in another way. And I also really admired that about her. And I love that she was just like a rocker at heart too. So I wish I would have had an opportunity to meet her. I've heard some really great stories from friends that have met her and that worked with her and stuff. And but yeah, she's definitely one that's always a big inspiration, and constant rotation at home too.
Yeah. What's the grand plan for Nikki Hill?
Oh my gosh, survival. I know that's very basic, but it's so true. I just want to keep writing, keep getting better at it, and keep playing. If I can continue to release albums and be on the road, I will be a happy lady.
Yeah. Do you think the new album will be ready by the time you get down here?
I hope so. I'm not sure if there'll be a physical product, but fingers crossed, right? I mean, the thing with vinyl is it takes so long now that usually you have a release first and then vinyl comes later, but we'll see what we can do, right?
Yeah. All right, Nikki, it's been great to chat, and we look forward to seeing you back in Australia real soon.
Awesome. I can't wait. We'll see you all soon.